Having a bad manager can totally spoil your working experience. You will constantly feel stressed, you won't feel heard and understood by your boss, and it can even lead to your career being stagnant. If you don't want to end up there, it makes sense to know some red flags and be able to spot them early. Today, I'm gonna tell you how to do that. First, I want to say, it is very hard to spot an unprofessional manager if you are in the beginning of your career. When we just start our first jobs, we take everything around us as given. We accept the rules of the game. Yeah, my manager is yelling at me, but what's a big deal? He's yelling at everyone, it's just the reality. And there is no one to tell you that this is not okay. So if you already had that experience, please don't blame yourself. It's just a lottery that we all play with our first working place. Plus, sometimes you can have an unprofessional manager and sometimes your manager is just unfit for you. Some leadership styles work well for us and some don't. Maybe there is nothing bad with your manager, it's just your personal unfit. Nevertheless, there are things that are objectively not okay. It's not how a modern manager should, in my opinion, operate. So here's my red flags. I personally would rather avoid these managers because I already know that working with them will be hard for me and most probably hard for them as well. And for each red flag, I will explain why I think it's red and how to spot it early. Let's go. The first red flag I call busy and anxious. He is always overworked, very tensed, with the busiest calendar you can imagine. He is very demanding and pushy, and it's always explained by critical deadlines and huge risks. His workload is always visible to others, and he's even complaining to his team about how overloaded he is. He puts his schedule over everyone's below him, and he makes even a normal working challenge seem incredibly complicated. He seems to hate this, but deep inside, he finds a certain joy in it. And even if he's put into a more slower-paced role, he will create this urgency for him and for his team by himself. Why is this a red flag? I won't even start talking about why I consider this behavior rather unprofessional, because I want to focus on why it is bad for you to work in a team under this person. And the biggest reason is this anxious restlessness is highly contagious. Your work won't be well and healthy paced and predictable because you will always be pressured by his deadlines. Depending on which part of his brain will get hit today, you will get thrown from one task to another and everything will be urgent. These are the managers that have a tendency to push you to overwork, and they justify it with the fact that they overwork too. In my case, I know that I don't create my best work under this hustlish and fuzzy pressure. I mean, of course I can, but for a limited time, and it is normal to have different moments of urgencies in your work, but not every single day of the week. So this quality in a manager is usually quite damaging to my work. Now, here's the painful truth. We're often triggered by things that we have in us, and this case is mine. In the beginning of my career, I had managers like that, and this is how I thought a manager should operate. You know, always be busy and fighting with fire and running around and creates a sense of urgency in everyone around them. And even when I realized it's not the way to go, it took some time for me to unlearn it. Because for many of us, when we're pressured, when we're under stress, talking to someone, feel a compassion actually helps to relieve it. So when you complain to your team about how hard your work is, you do feel a little bit better. But this is why it's a red flag, because while manager can feel a little better, the team will get more anxious because the stress is contagious. Now, how to spot this? By the way, when I say it's better to spot this early, I mean as early as you sitting on the interview with the hiring manager. If you already work under a person like that, the behavior I just described is your ringing bell. And if you're about to join the team, here's what you can do. On the interview, ask about work-life balance. And you can frame it as a general question about a team or corporate culture. For example, how does your company support employees with maintaining the work-life balance? Or how would you describe a work-life balance in your department? If the reaction is, yeah, it happens sometimes, but in general we don't welcome overworking, it's good. And if it's kind of like, you should understand how important are the things that we're working with here, this is a ringing bell. Spot the vibe, you don't understand the scale of the problems we're dealing with here. You know, like on the interview, you're sharing a huge challenge that you tackled in your past experience, and they're like, phew, this is nothing compared to what we are dealing with here. So that's a ringing bell. Finally, you need to spot if the stress is a constant part of the work or just an occasional cases. And the easiest way to spot that is to ask about how the typical working week or typical working day looks like. And if you see that the description contains a certain level of pressure or overwork, if you sense something like that, that's a ringing bell. Second red flag is silence. I will call him a silent guy. At first, he seemed like a good manager. He does not micromanage you, we will speak about that later. He is clear about what he wants and he doesn't interfere with your work much. But then you notice that when you show him your work, you never know what he thinks. Like, is it good? Is it bad? Can anything be improved next time? You don't know because he never gives you any feedback. He takes it, says okay, and you're good to go. When you need to do something that you've never done before or what is outside of your comfort zone, he will never empower you. And when you succeeded, he would never praise you or recognize your achievements. Basically, very silent type. Why is this a red flag? Well, first and foremost, how on earth can you learn something new, improve your work, move forward with your career if you don't actually know if you're doing a good job or a bad job? And working under a manager like that can actually affect your career because he's so indifferent. Do you actually think that he will advocate for you in front of his senior management? And we all know that having your manager as your promoter is incredibly important for both your personal learnings and career development. Also, if you are consistently unrecognized for your efforts, you won't feel good about yourself. You won't feel good about your job. You will be disengaged. I mean, yeah, you can still go to the office every day, but the actual working experience won't bring you any positivity. Why bother making an effort if you know that reaction for an average performance and outstanding performance will be the same? In my opinion, working under a manager like that is quite stagnant. Maybe at some point of your career, this would be something you would be looking for, but at least for myself, I don't want to waste my time working on a manager that I don't get anything from. No mentorship, no empowerment, no learnings. My time is too valuable for that, and yours too. Now, how to spot? With this one, it's sometimes a little bit harder to spot, but this is what I would do. On the interview, you can ask questions about a feedback culture in the organization. Of course, people won't tell you, yeah, we don't give each other feedback and we lie to each other's faces. We all understand that. But based on how genuine and sincere their answers will be, you can make your judgment based on maybe how confident they are when talking about the feedback culture. Ask about learning opportunities in this role and then look closely. If the only thing they talk about is about the learning courses that HR provides and not a single word about how people learn within the team or from the manager, this may be a ringing bell. Finally, and this may be an indirect one, but still, ask about potential career perspectives in this role and then look at the reaction. If the manager in reality is actively supporting his team members' growth and promotions, he will easily answer this. Because he's actually doing that in the reality, he has a context. And if you see that answering that is troublesome, this may be a potential, a little bit of a ringing bell. Finally, third red flag, one and only micromanager. So many things have been said about this one. He is intrusive and meticulous, and he is flying over you like a seagull looking for food. He wants to be a part of every task. He provides excessive feedback and checks your work so often that you are annoyed. He has a tendency to double guess your decisions, which don't make you feel trusted. As the name suggests, he wants to manage every single thing. And while his intention may be to just ensure the quality of the result, his approach is suffocating. Why is this a red flag? Well, there is almost nothing as demotivating as your manager not trusting your work. Because you not only always feel watched, you feel evaluated. And even if you're still junior, if you will constantly operate in an environment like that, you will never learn. And if you're senior, behavior like that makes you feel almost like disrespected. Like, if you don't trust me that much, why did you hire me in the first place? Also, micromanagers tend to over-focus on process, not on the results. For you, it's damaging because it kind of kills the creativity. There is always the procedure that you should follow, and I should watch how you follow it. I mean, I think it's hard to get into a creative, innovative, collaborative mode with the micromanager. And even if you're not on that creative job, it's still nice to be in this mode sometimes. Now, how to spot a micromanager? Because they're often over-focused on procedures and deadlines, you can ask on the interview something like, how do you usually track a progress of a project? And if they say that they are basically checking the progress 4 times a day, well, here it is. And if you ask something like, what would you expect from a perfect candidate for the role? And the very first thing they say is, you have to be on time. This is also kind of a little bit of a ringing bell. If you will join a team with a thoughtful, professional manager that empowers you, gives you feedback, and supports you as a mentor, this is a gateway to absolutely transform your career. People change departments and even companies to work under a particular manager. And to be honest, to a certain extent, I can understand that. We tolerate the most boring job possible if we have a great supporting manager. And we quit the job of our dreams if manager sucks. I believe that learning about a future manager is as important as learning about a future job. In my career, I was blessed with a few incredible managers. I also had a few ones with a total and complete unfits, but I want to focus you on the other side. I did some of the most important and impactful decisions in my career, and I would even say in my life, because I was inspired and influenced by my managers. One of the decisions was to move to the Netherlands and do an MBA, and the other one was to move to HR after long years working in tech. And both these decisions pivoted my life in so many amazing ways, even though I moved back to tech from HR in the end. And if you're a manager yourself, I hope that maybe I triggered some of the thoughts in you, as at some point someone triggered in me. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck.